Real estate rockstars, welcome back. Here's what you can expect to learn in today's show. How to become your local hospital's go-to agent for doctors, how to systematically keep in touch with clients without using a CRM or technology, how to craft an offer that stands out in a low inventory market, and how to navigate conversations with your clients considering backing out. Today's guest is Susan Santoro, and she runs the Connecticut Shoreline and has been doing so for 39 years. She's closed thousands of transactions and did 56 as a solo agent just last year in 2023, which for most was a slow year. She did this by collaborating with the Yale Hospital as a part of her marketing strategy and much more. Guys, it's funny. Today's guest is old school badass, but the next show that's coming up is actually the exact opposite. She's a total Gen Zer, and their personalities are completely opposite, as well as their strategies. And I recorded today's show, Susan Santoro, back to back with the Gen Zer coming up next week. And just the contrast is hilarious. So make sure you don't miss next week's show. Go ahead and follow and turn on notifications for this podcast, and get ready, Real Estate Rockstars. Welcome, Susan Santoro. Susan, okay, doing my stalking on you beforehand, I have found that you are partnered with a local hospital as a way to, I believe, a part of your marketing strategy. And I know there's a bunch of agents out there getting into the industry who have had these ideas. I'm going to partner with this local business or this local opportunity. And could you share what that partnership looks like and like how it came to be?
Sure. So it kind of came to be by accident. I had a doctor who had contacted me, had given my name from somebody who I had sold to before. They were moving here, coming from Harvard to Yale, which is a very common stepping stone. He was coming here to be a chief of a very big department. And he said, we might not buy for a year and a half because, it takes a lot of time to, prospect an interview at Yale. So it's fine. Every time they came to town, I would take them out, show them things. Got to really know them, what they wanted. When the perfect house came on the market, I called him. He was actually in Japan. His wife was in Nantucket. We didn't have FaceTime then. So, describing exactly what it was, we put in an offer right then and there. And he said to me, I promise you, if you stick with us, I'm going to be bringing in at least 30 doctors into the department. So that's kind of how it started. And I've moved 32 now into his department. Because he's a big chief, other chiefs contacted him, hey, we're building up our department, any tips for us? And he would always share my name. So there are now 4 departments at Yale who I can't say exclusively call me because they don't have to. But I make it easy. I'm available 24/7. I have a team of agents. There's 3 other agents on my team that can take somebody out if they're moving here, want to get to see, what real estate's going to cost them. So it was totally by accident. And then one of them named me Realtor to the docs, and that became my hashtag. So I would say that, you can certainly go into HR departments at big corporations. If you don't have a big hospital around you, go into HR departments in corporations and see how you can help them in the relocation process. You're not going to get paid every time you take someone out. And you have to understand that. You put a lot of time and energy into it. But a year from now, if they move here and they take the job, they're going to use you. And then they're going to give your name to 10 other people. So that's kind of how it starts.
Okay, perfect. So for those listening, it's like step 1, figure out what corporation organization has a lot of people coming and going.
Exactly.
And then the subset of step 1 is go to that HR department, or figure out who's a good gatekeeper, who's the person that everyone knows, that everyone respects, maybe has influence over the organization, and then figure out how you can help them and do an amazing job. And you mentioned essentially maintaining the relationship is what brought you. So before I know, you are the relationship queen. So I want to talk about that in a second, but just any other advice for getting in with the dog. So for you, it's an informal partnership.
Correct.
And have you done anything special to cater to that clientele, the doctors?
No, except that they know I don't. The good part is that I don't ever require a lot of sleep. So if I get 4 hours of sleep a night, I'm fine. They know they can contact me at any hour. And I always tell them when I start with them, I have a lot of surgeons. So they get out of surgery at 2 a.m. They see a house that I, sent them and they're excited about it and they'll text me. And I always tell them, like, if I'm sleeping, I'm not going to hear my phone. It's sitting next to me, but it's on buzz. I'm not going to hear it. So, but I will get back to them the second I do see it. So sometimes it is at 2 a.m. and I shock them and they apologize. Did I wake you? And other times it's, the next morning, it's whatever, a text and email. I am constantly, if I don't get back to you in 15 minutes, somehow, some way, then I feel like I'm not doing my job. Now, with that said, I don't take my phone on a listing appointment. But I'm not in a listing appointment more than, an hour. So I will always get back to someone and they know that. And that's really important with their crazy busy schedules. They work like us 7 days, 7 nights. So again, it's just building that relationship by building that trust that they can reach me at any time. And it's not just for real estate. They will call me for years asking for recommendations of restaurants, car dealerships, we need to write a will, we need an attorney. It's just a constant.
Yeah. And I found that if you are able to be that connector piece, where you don't have to be the expert in all of these things, like you don't know about the car dealership or like the attorney specifically, but as long as you know someone and you're able to connect them, they will consistently think of, oh, Susan is the person that I should ask. Susan is the human of the town, the city.
Yes, exactly. And I, back to that, like, how do you get into a company? The other thing is that, you could go crazy, and it's fun going into a rabbit hole, figuring out through LinkedIn, through, Google, who is, the head of a certain department. Find something in common with one of those people and then, become their friend. And I think that, my key to 39 years in this, crazy business that just consumes you is that my clients are my friends and they truly are. And I will treat them as I do a friend. I'm not going to be going, on vacation with them, but I've been invited to, 3-year-old birthday parties and bar mitzvahs and weddings and, christenings and the whole bit. But you want to make them feel like they are your friend and they're important to you as your friends are. And you're not just a client. It's not just all about, I'm going to make the money and I'm never going to hear from you again. My business is 100% referrals from past clients at this point.
So how do we do that? So if it's like, especially I feel like when you're newer and you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money and you are just dying for that next commission check, or you're going to have to go back and get that job that took you years to, build up the guts to finally leave. And so there's this sense of urgency and like almost desperation. So do you have any advice, about how to be authentic and friendly and still make sure that you are doing everything possible to hit your financial goals as well?
That's a hard one. I think just, I'll say it over and over again, your sphere of influence. Everybody knows somebody. And I think joining a team is just such an important thing for a young agent. I didn't have that. I did floor time in my office almost 7 days a week in the beginning. And I would just answer every single call and just run with whoever I can. A lot of offices don't have floor time anymore. So you have to now turn to your sphere of influence. By joining a team, you can use their numbers. So that's the benefit. Again, every team runs different. How I run my team is I want people on my team to be able to build up their business as well, as building up our team numbers. But at the end of the year, there was 3 of us on the team this past year. We had 118 sales and 62 million in closings. You can use those numbers. And though, me being the lead obviously had, the bigger number, nobody has to know that. And so a young agent that's on a team say, our team did, 110 million this year. So I think you have to just show someone, who what but use your sphere of influence. If you have kids in nursery school, I'm big into branding. I just joined Sotheby's 3 years ago, and everything turned blue in my life because they're navy blue is their color. But even with my team, the Susan Santoro team, I give everybody jackets. I give everybody hats. I give, wear it all the time. My husband wears a baseball cap, a Sotheby's baseball cap on the tennis court. And he's constantly asked about a listing. And he's like, oh, no, here, call my wife. So it works. So, just get out there, immerse yourself in whatever company you join. Try to get on a team if you can, because it's super, super beneficial if your team is going to allow you to have your own career as well. There are some teams who just take leads, take all the sales under their name, zero benefit to a team agent. So I think
totally. I love what
go.
you say about branding, because I'm so obnoxiously about that. In the back of everyone, guys, if you're not watching on YouTube, if you watch on YouTube, I have my neon 5 Pillars Nation sign. Yes. I also drink on the podcast out of my 5 Pillars Nation water bottle. Yeah. So all about it with you. I'm gonna get that tattoo later this year. Just kidding. That was such a joke.
We won't tell your mom. Hopefully she's not listening.
Don't tell my mom. Mom, don't listen. Okay. Yes. So, and to bring it back a little bit to the relationships piece of it, being someone's friend and making sure that authentic relationship is communicated through. Do you use a CRM? Are you systematic with your follow-up, or are you there's some agents who are just like, oh, I just thought of them. So on a whim. What is your process for maintaining those relationships?
So I don't use a CRM, and I'm going to use the excuse over and over again because I'm old. And it just, isn't my thing. Even hooking up a microphone to do this podcast with you was difficult for me.
Dude, you nailed it. You're right.
Oh gosh, it was not easy. But I'm in my 60s. So that technology is not anything that I grew up with or have a desire or time to even learn. So I actually have a box of index cards, and it's alphabetized in the back by their name, but it's also by month that they closed. So I will go through that box. A lot of times in the winter, especially, I will go through that box and I will start in January. I'll look up names. I'll reach out to them. Hey, drove by your house today. Love the landscaping. Love the color you painted the front door. I'll go back and I'll look what color the front door was when they bought the house. Find some reason to call them, contact them, email them, text them. It puts their name back in front of their face again. Some of them, a lot of my young doctors who I just adore. I think I have this hidden desire to be a doctor. I'm very fascinated by medicine. I will, call them hey, let's have dinner. Let's meet for a drink. Let's go for lunch. Let's go for coffee. So it does become authentic because you do really care about them. And it's not just that once a year sending them, a holiday card. I don't do Christmas cards or Hanukkah cards. I do Thanksgiving cards. I want to try to stand out in their mailbox and not waste money or time doing, around Christmas when everybody's doing it. But you got to call them during the year. You have to check in with them, and they have to hear either your voice or a text or something to say, you're thinking about them. So it's easy to become authentic. But, I also tell people be you, not everybody, I don't cold call. I'm not comfortable cold calling. It's not my thing. If you're you take something and you own it, you're going to be able to do it with ease. And I love it. This is a schmoozing business. And the more you schmooze, the more repeat and business you're going to get and the more referrals you're going to get. Otherwise, you're going to be working so hard every single day, every single year, looking for new business. People that, buy these leads, great if you want to buy them, terrific. But you got to keep in touch with those people if you sell them a house. Don't just walk away.
Susan, you do have a CRM, just because it's not.
It's in an index box.
That is, that's so much more than most people have, and that's the thing too. It's you have to find what works for you. For me, I had an Excel spreadsheet for honestly the first couple of years of me being in the industry. And I would hear all the time people get a real CRM, which is true. Yeah. I have one now and it actually has changed my life, but that's not the point. It's it will work if you work it. And a box of index cards with your clients, organize it in a way that you have a systematic process to follow up you're doing the CRM. It's happening.
Right. Yeah, I guess so. It's just a different way. An old-fashioned way. The dinosaurs. Yeah.
So with that, you are systematically touching every past client that you've had to maintain those relationships. You also do Thanksgiving cards. What else are you doing? And you're doing the branding, of course. What else do you have going on to increase your brand awareness or touch points with your clients, et cetera?
So I have a closing checklist, and it's literally just, it's either if I'm doing it or I have an assistant, who does it. It consists of, make sure we have their emails and we enter them onto our newsletter, email list. So we do send out newsletters. We send out, if there's a great, new listing or, any listing, right, that is in their area, we'll try to break that down and send that to them. We put them on a list for anniversary cards. As I said to you, my index cards are, broken up through the month. So every month I go through them. I write a little handwritten note. Hey, I can't believe it's been 8 years that you're in this business. That you're in your house, congratulations on your home anniversary. So that's on there. A reminder to post on LinkedIn, all social media platforms, all of that stuff will continue just to keep in touch with them. And look, I understand the benefits of CRMs, ones, I don't know what you have, but like ones that send out, letters or emails, on a regular basis to people. Again, to me, that's just it's not my way of being authentic. And, but you, again, just do what you're comfortable with, but keep in touch, relationship. It's just the one word that I will say over and over again in real estate.
And listeners, if you want a copy of Susan's post-closing checklist for closings, you can go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com and go over to the toolbox and get your free copy of that for download. Thanks for providing that, Susan.
Absolutely.
I'm curious what you do for closing gifts, because in correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Sotheby's like a luxury? Do you do luxurious things for your closing gifts? So
that's a great question. As I said, I was with a mom and pop, small company for 31 years. Joined Sotheby's 3 years ago. My two of the agents on my team were both, concerned about, price point and, Sotheby's only handles, $1 million plus listings. And what I told them is you have to get this into your head. Luxury is not a price point, but it's a service. Just do the best you're going to do for your clients. It has nothing to do with price point. Any sign can be in front of anybody's house, from ABC Real Estate to Sotheby's. It doesn't matter about the sign. It's the person behind it, and it's the service that they're offering. So, when people sometimes call me and say, I have a $400,000 house. I don't know if it's really Sotheby's material. Will you still work with me? Again, over and over again, it's not a price point. It's a way of service. So that's really important. And Sotheby's does have, their auction house, and they do have the most expensive homes in the world for sale. The $20-30 million, homes of the famous people. I'm in New Haven, Connecticut. We don't have that here. So it's just a way of service.
What do you guys do for, and I love that clarification. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What do you do for closing gifts?
I think it depends on the person. Okay. We really get to know them, right? If they have dogs and kids, and sometimes I have a wonderful French baker who makes me custom cookies. She makes my business card. I send her a picture of the house. She makes a cookie of the house with the color. She makes a key with the address. And then we have like little shirts or beach balls, depending on where they're buying a house. We put each kid's name on a cookie. We put the dog's name on a cookie, and that's a really fun gift. And they can enjoy them, over and over again. Depending on the person, I just sold a beautiful house down by the water. I gave her a gorgeous hand-blown glass seashell dish. I just knew that she collected glass. So when I get to know something about somebody as I'm working with them, I might be out showing them a house and, they're always in the color red or whatever. And I'll always ask them, is there significance to that? I go right to my contact when I leave them in my phone, and I write down, this person likes this, or this person, I write down all their kids' names, their dog's name, everything goes into my contacts. So the gift becomes sort of, something that they're going to enjoy. If they're moving here from out of state and they know no one or, nothing around here, sometimes I'll give them gift certificates to a few local restaurants so they get to know them. So I don't have a closing gift. I have, different ones.
Here's a quick commercial break from our sponsor, Ryan Pineda.
If you are trying to grow your real estate investing business, then you need to join us at Wealthy Investor. If you have no idea what Wealthy Investor is, it is our coaching program and community. We have helped thousands of students worldwide grow their business. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you're trying to get that first deal. We can help you do that. If you're trying to scale your business and go from a few deals a year to a few deals a month, or even 7 figures a year, we can help you do that too. In fact, last year alone, we had over 30 students do over $1 million in revenue. And I'd love for you to be the next one. So it's pretty simple. If you're trying to grow your business and wholesale more homes or flip more homes or buy more rental properties, then you need to go to wealthyinvestor.com and book a free call with our team. It's super simple. We'll go on a strategy call with you and figure out how we can help you grow according to your needs. So all you got to do is go to wealthyinvestor.com, book the free call with the team, and we'll see you there.
Now back to the show. Yeah, hyper personal, and it fits your brand, the relationship.
Right, exactly.
Master.
It goes back. Yep. I like that. I'm going to have a new hashtag, Realtor to the Docs and Relationship Master. I'm going to write that down.
That's right. Okay. And you mentioned before, you're like, luxury is not a price point, but a service. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about what you think of, like, what is the service that you provide? Hypothetically, if you're talking to someone and they're deciding between, multiple people, I don't care whether we do buyer or seller scenario, but like, how do you articulate your service?
I think it's really just showing them that you're going to give them the time. I had 3 new buyers sign on with me yesterday, which is unusual that I would have 3 in one day. One of them is coming from just Googling, top realtors in the area. She told me she went on and read every single Google review and realized that I do a lot of first-time buyers. And she's finding that the agent that she worked with a year ago, she, did not represent, first-time buyers, couldn't guide them in, mortgage people that can hold their hand through this, or attorneys that will hold their hand. Again, you got to hook up personalities and make sure that, everyone's going to get along with that. But the service is just, again, just time. I think just making sure that they know that you are willing to put in the time to get them where they want to get. Another buyer that called me yesterday she's been in a rent. She put in 5 offers last spring. We have I don't, where you are. I don't know your local market, but we have a serious lack of inventory that actually my business is down 12 million this year alone, just me personally, from lack of inventory. A lot of my doctors wound up going into rentals. So hopefully they'll all get a house this year. But this woman called me because she put in 5 offers. 3 of them were on my listings, and realized her agent really didn't know the area. And I find that to be a big mistake with agents. Agents get greedy, and they're just going to take someone and think that they can go, all over the place with them. To me, if I can't tell you where to get pizza, where to get your hair cut, where to go grocery shopping, I'm not doing my job. So you want to sell yourself on that, the local expert, but keep in mind that, like, where I am, New Haven County is big. It stretches, all the way out to the shoreline. And we go as far north as, Wallingford, as far south as Fairfield. I know all of those towns, but beyond that, if you tell me you want to buy in a town beyond that, I'm going to refer it to another expert in that area. So I think that that's another key that people really appreciate, is just you're willing to put in the time and make sure they get what they want to get.
Do you have any, like, with those buyers that you took on yesterday, what does take on mean? It's like, do you do a buyer's presentation, sit down with it, or are you just like, what are you looking for? And then kind of take it from there? What's your process?
So they all three happen to be physicians, so none of them have time to sit down with me. So it was,
Perfect.
I have, I have a sheet, which I'll remind myself to send that to you also.
Oh yeah, we love it. All the tools.
Which is just, a take-in sheet, right? I just sort of it's a wish list, of exactly what you're looking for. And when I'm talking to them, I'll fill that in. Do they have kids? They might come out and say to me, I want to be in this school district. They've done their research. They've gone on, greatschools.org. So I think that, it's important to, again, zoom in. Then we talk about making sure they get pre-approved. Then I set them up on an auto search so that they don't have to, I said to them, divorce yourself from the Z word, because you shouldn't be doing the work. This is my job. But the reason I set them up on an auto search is I don't want to miss anything. I've got a lot of buyers I'm working with. I don't want to miss that one house. So they will get it sent directly and automatically the minute it hits the MLS, and then call me, when it looks interesting. Sometimes I just have to FaceTime them from there. Sometimes I'm just bringing one spouse and, with their hours. So, but yesterday with the three that called, yes, buyer brokers are very important. I'm not going to say they're not. I don't always sign them. You don't push someone into it. And one of the girls who called me yesterday was pushed into it. And the agent right away was like, we have to sign a buyer broker and I get paid 3%. So if they're offering out less, I'm going to bill you for the difference. And she's a first time buyer. So we never even talked about a buyer broker at this point. Let's get to know each other. I might not want to work with her. So I set them up on a watch list. Let's meet, we'll meet a couple of times, show them houses, and then we'll sign a buyer broker and then we'll talk about that. But, and again, everyone does business different. And with, this, lawsuit, that was going on in our industry, I'm not going to talk about it. But, it's up to you whether you want to bill someone the difference of what you think that you should get paid or whether you're willing to just accept it. So, and I think it's really a circumstantial thing. Some young buyers coming out of med school, they don't have the extra money to pay you. So I think you have to decide, who that person is. But I did wind up signing one of them on as a buyer broker, because they called me and said, we want buyer representation. What do we have to do? So we wound up signing on a buyer broker.
So after you've shown people homes, few homes, and maybe you're in a house that they're like, we really like this one, and they're like strongly considering whether or not this is it for them and want to move forward, and they're kind of like debating it there on the spot with you. What are some of the considerations that you help talk them through in that scenario? We're like, we think we like it, but we're not sure. And then how do you like talk them through that?
So the first thing I do is I always tell people, and it's the truth, houses talk to people. Just like when you put on a shirt or a dress in the morning, if you look horrible in it, you're going to take it right off. And if you feel great in it, you're going to keep it on for the day. And it's the same with a house. Can you see yourself cooking in this kitchen? Can you see your kids, in the yard? Does this fit your needs? Someone just told me they put in an offer on a house on a certain street and they lost it, and they were very upset they lost it. And I said, you have an 8-month-old, where is she going to ride her bike on that street? And they said, oh, why? Is it a busy street? I said, look outside. It's a double yellow line. It's a main road. They said, oh, our agent never told us that. And she was FaceTiming them. So it's important, if they got here and realized they bought on a main road, they would have a problem with that. So I said to them, look, everything happens for a reason that you didn't get that house. But I think, a house definitely talks to somebody. And then once they, feel like, oh, it's their house, obviously fall in love is great. But when you have lack of inventory, you're going to be one of, 8, 10, 20 offers. So it's all, then we start talking about how to craft our offer to try to stand out. And it's not always about the money. And, people have to understand that you can come up with a way of saying, as part of your, this inspection for informational purposes only is gone by the wayside because it means nothing anymore. But like recently, I got someone a house by saying, we want to have, they're first time buyers, they want to have a inspection just to get to know the house. We won't ask for anything, any individual item under $5,000. So that's sort of everything, right? I mean, basically, if the roof is bad, we're going to probably ask to negotiate it. But you're sending them a message that we're not going to nickel and dime, and this is going to be a smooth transaction. And it worked because this was an older couple. They didn't have the years of how old their house was. So it worked. So every situation is different, but you have to know how to write an offer and make it work.
Let's dig deeper into that so it's not always about the money. And that's a great with the inspection criteria. We're not going to nickel and dime you. What other things would you recommend that you've seen that work?
Get pre-approved. Try to find a bank that will completely pre-approve you, meaning you're 100% approved. All that they have to do is just order the appraisal. So now you can go in and make an offer on a house without a mortgage contingency. So, obviously it's going to be your risk. Unfortunately, in the business, that we're in for the last 4 years, it is your risk. The house may not appraise and you have to explain to them. They might have to come up with the difference in that money. And if they don't have it, well, then, you have to have a mortgage contingency and hope for the best. But I think that, it's, again, it really depends on the situation of how to get someone to stand out. I'm not going to tell you that people don't write these love letters anymore, because they do. And, it's up to the seller if they want to read it. And sometimes it makes a difference.
How about earnest money tips? I don't know if you guys do non-refundable deposits. In North Carolina, there's this thing called a due diligence fee that's a non-refundable deposit, or like considering how much over to offer, all of those things.
So I'll pull up, we don't have a non-refundable, but I love that idea. Really kind of, it's the glue that holds the contract together.
Oh my God. It is it's like the most powerful thing you can do.
Yeah. I love that idea.
Anyway, well, maybe it depends on the scenario. Not all the clients love it, of course, right. But if they really want the house, right. Anyway,
so
go on.
I actually had a listing last year and we had 14 offers on it. And I just remember it because it really stood out. And the agent who got the house, who happened to be on my team. So, it was wound up being a dual agent, but what she did is something like that. She wrote that if, they're going to have an inspection for informational purposes only, but if they decide after the inspection they don't want to move forward, $5,000 goes directly to the seller. It was like a home run to these sellers. They figured what could come up that was going to be more than $5,000. So if these people backed out because they just didn't feel it when they were in the house, there's $5,000 for them to do whatever they want. So that's what won that offer. So again, it was a situational, thing, but it worked. So it's not a tactic often used, but it's another tool that is a really good idea to try to do. We go directly to contract here. We don't go to binder. In New Haven County, Fairfield County goes to binder. New Haven County, we go directly to contract. I always tell them that, let's say they're putting down 10% of the purchase price. And a lot of my doctors do 100% financing because there's doctor loans, which is fine because sometimes when you explain what a physician loan is, the people aren't going to get turned down for that loan. But if they're doing 10% down total, I will tell them to put it down upon acceptance. It just looks better in the eyes of the seller. The seller imagines that if the deal goes south, they're going to automatically collect that 10% when that's not accurate. Legally, they still have to go to court and fight over it, but it just makes them look strong. When I'm representing a seller, I demand a big deposit up front because, as I just said to you, it's the glue that holds the contract together. A week before closing, another house comes on the market. That buyer loves even more than the one they're in contract for your listing. They're not going to walk away from $20,000 on the table. They might walk away if they're putting down $3,000 and $5,000. And I get multiple offers on my listings that I look at. Some of these agents are writing down $1,000 upon acceptance. What's anyone doing with $1,000? We're not taking house off the market for $1,000. So Up these deposits on your contracts.
Okay, the offer got accepted, you're under contract, the home inspection came back, and, obviously you can probably see most of if the roof was old or the HVAC, but let's just pretend hypothetically that we're surprised that both, the roof and the HVAC are older. Maybe they have like 3 years left of life on them. And now you're working with your buyers and you're saying the buyers are considering backing out. And what are the considerations, like pros and cons, or what does that conversation that you have with them look like?
So sometimes I'll advise them to let's bring in an expert. I have over the years, obviously have a lot of contacts with, plumbers, electricians, HVAC people, roofers, etc. I'll bring in an expert and give them an estimate. It might not be as bad as they think. And a lot of buyers walk into any house and they think that anything that needs to be done is $10,000. I don't know if you experience the same thing. It's like, they walk in and say, oh man, whole house needs to be painted. There's 10 grand. Or I have to change this lighting. There's 10 grand. And a lot of times something is not as expensive as you think, and it doesn't need it right now. And if you really do love this house and you've looked at a lot of houses, every house is going to have something. And if you love 90% of everything else in this house and it's just the roof, okay, then, you put some money aside and you put a new roof on. Depending on what it is, if it's an HVAC, sometimes I will have them get a home warranty. A 1-year home warranty. Sometimes we'll go back. If we say, let's say we go in with, informational purposes only, or we're not going to ask for anything, under 5,000, we'll go back and say, look, we promise we're not going to ask for anything. However, you should know that your furnace is, it's dying and it's probably not going to last, through even this winter. They might come back and say, we'll ask, are you willing to contribute? Here's an estimate for $10,000 for a new furnace. Are you willing to contribute $5,000? And, we go from there and we try to open up negotiations. But I think you have to first determine if they still are in love with this house as they were when they put in the offer, and remind them about all the other things that we saw and what was wrong with each one. And this house is perfect. It's the right location. It's the right layout. It's the fenced yard for the dog. Everything is perfect about it, except it might need, a new furnace or a new roof. In the long run, every house is going to need something. Home warranties are good. They're not the end all be all with answers to things, but I think that they sometimes just help pacify a buyer. And sometimes I'll say to my seller, let's offer a home warranty. It's less than $800 and it seals the deal.
Okay, so you made it through negotiations and we are at, the last couple days and you are, right before your final walkthrough. Can you talk me through what your final walkthrough looks like?
It's pretty simple. It's really just making sure the house looks like it did the last time you saw it, whether that was at the inspection or if you waived your inspection, then it was at the time that you looked at the house. You have to explain to them that there's going to be normal wear and tear, right? If you have hardwood floors and you now remove your carpeting, that was your beautiful oriental rug that was in the living room, you're going to have a suntan mark, right? The light that's hitting it, the floors underneath that rug are going to be perfect. They've never been walked on. You have to prepare that. And I am all about managing someone's expectations. It's really important and it's an important part so that buyers don't walk in that day and they say, this is what we bought. You want them to know, like, once the pictures are off the wall, right? I don't care if the house was just painted. If pictures are hanging on the wall, you're going to need to touch up some paint and do those things. So it's so rare that something comes up at a walkthrough. And if it's my sellers, I tell them, go through the house. And I always will go to the house the day before a walkthrough and do my own walkthrough and make sure that everything, and, check everything, make sure, faucets are working and, that kind of stuff. Make sure there's no leaks, etc. So
that's super smart of you. I know my first year, so I actually never ended up doing that, even though I wanted to. I just felt like I was slammed, which may or may not have been true. But I remember just showing up when the seller hasn't done their part as when you're representing a buyer. And you might have even like done everything right. You know, you checked in with their side, confirmed that all the items were done. You collected the invoices for whatever. And then you show up with the buyer and, you know, they're going to sign later today and the house is just, and you're like, no.
Yes, exactly.
It's the freaking worst.
And when you look, you can't do anything about it when it's your buyer. And, you know, you're not going to get into a house the day before. But to me, you know, agents are so quick about just ending their relationship. Okay, your house is under deposit. Next. And you got to just stay in touch with them. And, you know, did you do this? Did you do that? I have a closing that's going to happen on Monday. And I talked to my seller yesterday. And I said to her, like, you know, let's talk about, like, I have in my notes, the propane tanks are leased. I have down that the security system is leased. Like, make sure I have all of those numbers and then pass it on to the buyer's agent. And then I'll print out a copy of it and hand it to that buyer's agent at the closing. I mean, at the walkthrough, just to make sure that everything is done. So it's hard, but a lot of times, like, I am still a file person. Here, I'm going to show you my age again. My office doesn't like it. I print out everything and make a file. I keep, when it's on my desktop, it's lost. And so I like to print out everything and I write right on the file, check, you know, phone number, or make sure you get, you know, the oil, you know, that's left in the tank so we can get reimbursed for it. You know, don't leave any money on the table for your client. But I'm a big, I definitely keep 3M sticky notes in business because I have a lot of sticky notes everywhere. So really important just to, you know, again, whatever strategy works for you, but just make sure that your ducks are in order.
I think that point about making sure your clients don't leave any money on the table too, or just thinking through all the little details that they wouldn't know to expect. Because, you know, in the beginning, you're like, I'm a relationships person. And that's, you know, a lot of people say that. And it's like, what does that actually mean? But I think that your examples here of every little bit of extra effort you put to think through, what would I want if I was in their shoes? What would I appreciate? Right. And going the extra mile consistently is probably what, you know, from the buyer's perspective, I'd be like, wow, oh my gosh, I never would have freaking thought of that. Thank you so much.
Yep. And even as simple as make sure you know, changing your address, right? But change it in Amazon, change it in anything that you get regularly. I had a client freak out on me because they forgot to change I was representing the buyer and the seller's agent called me. The seller never changed their contact prescription. They get them in the mail every month, you know, the throwaway contacts. And there was piles of them, you know, at the house. You know, can they come over and get them? So whatever you can think of, just help your client. Remember, they're packing up. Sometimes, you know, they've been in their house for 20 years. They don't even think about changing some things. So, you know, but it's important, just details, just little details. If you go on and read my Google reviews, I think what I have read consistently over and over again from my clients is Susan treats us like we were her only client. And that's a lot for me. That means a lot. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, I sometimes work, you know, 50, 60 hours a week. You do what you have to do. And yes, it does take away from your family. And it's the other thing that I do tell a lot of these young agents, you can't beat yourself up. Not everyone is going to do 20, 25, 30, 50 million a year, especially if you have a young family. And so you have to figure out ways how to, you know, do business behind the scenes and not take away from your family if that's what's important to you. But, you know, you can't expect to do everything. And you had a guest on recently, Kayla, who talked about, you know, her YouTube, which is my goal for this year. That's my 2024 goal to get on YouTube. But Kayla talked about, and I thought it was brilliant, how people are viewing her content when she's sleeping or when she's home with her young family. And that's important. So you just have to figure out the system that's going to work for you. I was there every single day to pick my daughter up from school. That was important. So every day in my calendar from 3 to 5 was an appointment to pick up my daughter. And just as if I had an appointment to show you a house and someone else called and wanted to see a house at that time, I'd say, sorry, I'm already booked. that was my appointment because that was really important to me. I didn't cook dinner, but I got to see her after school and find out, what happened. So, you just have to make a decision, own it. If you own any decision that you make in life, it just makes things easy and smooth.
Susan, what did we not cover today that you wanted to hit on, or what does the future hold for you?
The future holds YouTube, definitely. It's an uncomfortable thing. And, again, the young agents out there, like yourself, who are, young and pretty and, don't have to wear a lot of makeup, et cetera. It's easier for, right? I always feel like, my age, like, do people really want to see me? And one time I put a filter on because I was looking at all these girls going, they always look beautiful, look like models, right? I put a filter on and my daughter called me, and my daughter's 35, and she called me and she said, what did you do to yourself? And I said, why? And she was like, it didn't look like you. And I was like, oh, I tried a filter. And she's like, don't do it again. So, and then when I'll do one day I posted a video, I had 2 home inspections in a row and had no time for lunch. And the home inspector brought a box of cannolis. And I posted a video of myself exhausted. And I was like, went from a closing to 2 home inspections, one after another. Here I am, it's 5:00, and all I've eaten today so far is this cannoli. And I'm like eating it on the video. And my son-in-law called me and he was like, that's the most authentic video you've ever done. Do more of that. So, again, you have to do what's comfortable for you, but I'm done with filters and realize that, I am who I am. And people are going to hire me because of my knowledge, not because of what I look like, whatever age you are. So, just be your authentic self. But so YouTube is it's an uncomfortable future for me, but it's my goal this year.
We're all going to be on the lookout.
Thank you. Dual licensing. Going to get licensed in Florida also. My entire family is in Florida. I'm the only person here in Connecticut. And I've, owned property there, but I've never been licensed there. So that's in my future. I think I have no idea. People ask me all the time, am I going to retire ever? That's an unknown question. You have to love what you do to do it this long. I love this business. I love the adrenaline. And I think that, maybe teaching, when I do decide to retire someday, mentoring in real estate, which is why I started a team, because I do enjoy teaching and I do enjoy helping. So that's my future. And I think you had mentioned even in one of your emails to me about, something that, if there's anything that I've learned recently. And I read a quote that has been on my mind. And it's basically just saying, know your value, right? Especially on the heels of NAR and everything that's been going on. Know your value. And, Chanel, Cartier, Louis Vuitton, they never go on sale. And they don't go on sale because they know their worth. So I think that if you have to treat yourself like luxury also. Don't reduce your value just to appeal the masses. So, know your value, show your luxury of service. And again, be your authentic self and you will build relationships, and relationships will lead into more and more and more business. So that's my key.
Perfect. Love it. And listeners, if you want more of Susan, go check her out on Instagram. It is Susan Santoro _realtor. And she also has the Susan Santoro team. Did I say your last name right, Susan?
Santoro. Yes, you did.
Nailed it. And also be looking out for her on YouTube. And guys, when you have that referral, you're looking for someone in the shoreline of Connecticut, all of the surrounding areas, and Florida coming soon, make sure to send it to Susan. And Susan, is there anything else for our listeners or where you would like to direct them to reach out?
No, we have LinkedIn, Instagram. It's Susan Santoro _realtor. Facebook is just Susan Santoro. LinkedIn is Susan Santoro. TikTok, the CT Realtor. So TikTok has become a thing for me. I do offer, we didn't talk about that, but I do offer, video. I do video of my homes. I do staging virtually. Very important. Everyone is buying a house online right now. They're not necessarily coming to see it. virtual staging is more important, in my opinion, than actually putting furniture in a house, in an empty house. So lots of great, easy to do virtual staging. So important to do that. And we've talked about that on TikTok as well. And then, WilliamPitt.com, agents, Susan Santoro or the Susan Santoro team.
And guys, don't freak out. All that's in the show notes as normal. So you can just scroll down there and click the links. No, you're totally fine. And Susan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. And listeners, if you want to hang out with me and the owner of the show, we are The Shelby Show and Erin Amujastegi on the gram. As always, keep sending us feedback. I love you guys are speaking up more and more. And it's so fun to hear your thoughts of who you liked, who you didn't, what you might want to see changed in the show or tweaked. So keep it coming. And otherwise, guys, that's all we have for today. Susan, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me.
Of course.
Okay.
Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.